If the slow, arrogant, untrustworthy activity of FEMA after recent storms wasn't enough to raise your ire, the news that burst forth over the weekend, well, it just might. It's about FEMA bureaucrats being told to avoid helping people in homes with Trump campaign signs in their yards. It's infuriating, and it lets honest observers remember deeper lessons about FEMA, the U.S. Constitution, ethics, and political philosophy in the first place. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. You know, in teaching political philosophy and economics classes, I often mention to students that in addition to the lack of any constitutional power for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to exist, and in addition to it standing as a mutation of the original Lockean political philosophy on which the U.S. government is based, that being the idea that government exists to stop or punish person-on-person predation, not to protect people, as they say, from so-called natural disasters. Well, I try to tell economics students that FEMA and all political institutions actually are constant storms, always harming us and our ability to keep our earnings, to invest in personal safety, and to improve our lives. This axiomatic law of political economics often becomes more starkly revealed when government so-called emergency groups jump into action because local people cite them for their sloth, their inaction, their waste, their political favoritism, their turf war mentality, and for their adversarial relationships with real, private, charitable initiatives. Thus, we get not just the stories from New Orleans in 2005 when private charity literally was blocked by FEMA. We see more recent stories about FEMA screwing up local charity in areas where victims needed help because of Hurricane Helene. And now we see an even deeper, darker side to the FEMA bureaucracy. The Daily Wire, November 8th, reported, quote, "A federal disaster relief official ordered workers to bypass the homes of Donald Trump's supporters as they surveyed damage caused by Hurricane Milton in Florida, according to internal correspondence obtained by the Daily Wire and confirmed by multiple federal employees." End quote. That's right. As with all other facets of government, the parasites tell you they occupy their offices to protect you, while they force you to pay, harming your ability to protect yourself. And then they make political decisions about whom to help. It's classic. Quote, "A FEMA supervisor told workers in a message to avoid homes advertising Trump as they canvassed Lake Placid, Florida, to identify residents who could qualify for federal aid," internal messages viewed by the Daily Wire reveal. The supervisor, Marnie Washington, relayed this message both verbally and in a group chat used by the relief team, multiple government employees told the Daily Wire. End quote. Well, at least some of those employees were honest and offered this information to the Daily Wire, and at least it reminds observant people of the eternal drag that government is on our lives. But this added dimension really can be a gut punch to people in storm zones and their loved ones. Quote, "The government employees told the Daily Wire that at least 20 homes with Trump signs or flags were skipped from the end of October and into November due to the guidance, meaning they were not given the opportunity to qualify for FEMA assistance. Images shared with the Daily Wire show that houses were skipped over by the workers who wrote in the government system messages such as Trump sign, no entry per leadership." End quote. And the Daily Wire adds, quote, "It is unclear whether the same guidance was issued elsewhere in the country. The employees were part of a Department of Homeland Security Surge Capacity Force team, meaning they volunteered from other DHS agencies to help an understaffed FEMA as it dealt with a second major hurricane in a span of just a few weeks. End quote. And yes, they're all getting paid with our tax money, and guess what? Like virtually all federal agencies, I'm sure they'll be asking politicians to grab more of our tax money next year. Well, this infuriating new dimension to the FEMA story and to this story of desperate people trying to survive after a level 3 hurricane, well, this is just the beginning, because it's lit a proverbial brush fire of outrage. In fact, hot on the heels of the Daily Wire report, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, a Republican, ordered a major investigation into the news and the bureaucrats who might have been involved. Writes Mediaite's Philip Nieto, quote, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican, announced a formal investigation into targeted discrimination by federal relief workers over an instruction from a FEMA officer that relief workers ignore homes with Trump signs while providing disaster relief in the state. End quote. But it's essential to keep in mind that every taxpayer is targeted by FEMA and the feds. All one need to do in order to figure that out and to see the storm of damage that the feds will visit upon one's home is to choose not to pay the feds' tax demands. Obviously, we know what the government will do if we don't pay their protection racket taxes. As Nieto, quote, the incident first reported by the Daily Wire and later confirmed by FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell revealed an employee instructed workers during Hurricane Milton relief efforts not to bother with homes that had signs or flags supporting Trump. The report also noted that government employees have claimed at least 20 homes with Trump signs or flags were ignored during those efforts at the end of October. FEMA announced on Saturday that the unnamed official responsible for the instruction has been terminated from the agency. DeSantis has ordered Florida's Division of Emergency Management investigate the activity of the agency during a critical time in the state's emergency hurricane relief efforts. The blatant weaponization of government, bipartisan activists, and the federal bureaucracy is yet another reason why the Biden-Harris administration is in its final days, DeSantis told his followers on X, formerly Twitter. At my direction, the Division of Emergency Management is launching an investigation into the federal government's targeted discrimination of Floridians who support Donald Trump, DeSantis announced. End quote. And in fact, this stunning revelation has caught the attention of politicians in D.C. And no, they're not going to abide by the Constitution and eliminate FEMA. They're going to focus on the immediate issue. They're going to make some political hay out of it and leave the corrupt system in place. But at least they're going to shed some light on the new revelations. As Fox News and the New York Post reported November 10th, quote, the House of Representatives Oversight Committee has launched an investigation into the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, after an employee was terminated for instructing hurricane relief workers in Florida to avoid homes with Trump flags. Representative James Comer, Republican of Kentucky, chairperson of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, announced Saturday he sent FEMA Director Deanne Criswell a letter requesting she testify at a hearing to answer questions about the agency's response to Hurricanes Helene and Milton. End quote. Which brings us back to the fundamentals. FEMA is not sanctioned by the U.S. Constitution. And even if that document were amended to allow for Ms. Criswell to have her parasitic job and for her employees to infest America as they claim to help us with money and opportunities they've already stolen from us, yes, even if the Constitution were amended to allow for that corrupt agency to exist, it would not be any more moral or ethical for government to claim power over us in order to later hand out so-called aid for anything. The fraud of it all has been available to see since FEMA was started by Jimmy Carter. But these new revelations help crystallize the matter and focus attention on it. And they allow Americans to see that it's not just the immediate political play that is the problem. It's the agency itself and the assumption that you don't own the fruits of your labor. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe. Find us on Rumble, where they don't censor us. Follow us there and share the videos. You can find us on YouTube, where, yes, they are censorious. And, of course, find us all the time inside Facebook. Check us out over at MRCTV.org. See what the whole team is doing. Check out the MRC-TV store, and please consider donating to the Media Research Center. You can find us on TikTok, on Instagram, and on X. And if you want to find me on Gab, I'm at Gardner Goldsmith on Gab, and on X, I'm at Gard Goldsmith. Thanks for watching. Please share these videos, especially for people who are interested in the deeper roots of these problems. It's a big opportunity to get the word around to people and help spread the education. For MRC TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.